The emergency council convened in under 3 cycles, which told me everything I needed to know about how badly we had miscalculated. I am Krell, Senior Military Assessor for the Galactic Concordance, and I have spent 400 rotations evaluating the combat capabilities of 17 different species. Never, in all that time, have I seen the High Command look so twitchy. Explain to me, High Chancellor Vexrune said, her 3 eye stalks focusing on me with unsettling intensity. How an entire battle fleet disappeared. Such a polite word for what had actually happened. Chancellor, the Terran response was, atypical, I began. Atypical? Her voice rose several octaves. Atypical is using unconventional tactics. Atypical is employing unexpected weapons. Atypical is not making 600 warships vanish from sensor arrays as if they never existed. Their point. 3 cycles earlier, the Draknor Hegemony had made what they considered a reasonable demand: surrender 50% of human agricultural output or face military consequences. The Draknor, you should know, are not exactly known for their diplomatic finesse. They are a warrior culture, obsessed with conquest, honor, and collecting trophies from defeated enemies. Their battle fleet was legendary, their tactics brutal but effective. Humanity had sent a single transmission in response. No thank you. That was it. No threats, no counter-demands, no military posturing. Just a polite refusal that somehow managed to sound both courteous and deeply insulting at the same time. The Draknor Supreme Commander, a veteran of 60 campaigns whose name roughly translated to "he who drinks from enemy skulls," had apparently found this hilarious. He ordered his entire fleet to the Terran home system, broadcasting his intentions across all channels. He was going to teach these upstart mammals what happened when you refused a Draknor ultimatum. I had reviewed the data myself. 600 warships, each one capable of glassing a planet. The kind of force that had subjugated 12 different civilizations in the last century alone. They entered human space singing battle hymns. 3 hours later, every single ship went dark. Not destroyed. Not disabled. Dark. The last transmission we received, I continued, pulling up the holographic display, was from the Supreme Commander himself. The recording flickered to life. The Draknor commander's face filled the screen, his scales pale with something that looked disturbingly like terror. "They're in our ships," he whispered. "How did they get in our ships? We are in deep void. There is nothing out here. There is nothing out here." Then the transmission cut out. "That was 4 days ago," I said. "We have detected no weapons fire, no explosions, no debris fields. The fleet is simply gone." Counselor Threxmorn, our intelligence specialist, leaned forward. "What do we know about human military doctrine?" I activated my datapad. "That is the interesting part. According to our intelligence, humanity does not have a unified military doctrine. They have multiple competing philosophies, hundreds of historical conflicts to draw from, and absolutely no consensus on the proper way to conduct warfare." "That sounds like a weakness," Vexrune observed. "That is what the Draknor thought," I replied. "It turns out to be the opposite. Where we have one strategy, humans have thousands. Where we have standard responses, they have improvisation. Where we have predictable patterns, they have chaos. I know I said I would not use that word, but honestly, there is no better term for what humans do." "But how?" Threxmorn demanded. "How does an entire fleet vanish? What weapons are we dealing with?" "That is the problem," I said slowly. "We do not think they used weapons. Not in any conventional sense." The silence that followed was profound. "Explain," Vexrune ordered. I pulled up the analysis. The Draknor fleet was equipped with the finest sensor arrays in known space. If the humans had launched missiles, torpedoes, or any kind of projectile weapon, they would have been detected. If they had used energy weapons, there would be radiation signatures. If they had used nuclear devices, there would be debris. Then what did they use? According to our best analysis, people, the council chamber erupted. 7 different species all shouting at once creates quite a cacophony. Let me tell you. Silence. Vexrune's voice cut through the noise. "Assessor Krell, you are telling us that humans boarded 600 warships in the middle of deep space without being detected. That appears to be exactly what happened, yes. That is impossible. And yet, here we are." I pulled up another file. "This is footage from a Draknor survivor we managed to recover. He was found in an escape pod, catatonic. It took our medical staff 3 days to stabilize him enough to access his neural recorder." The hologram shifted, showing the interior of a Draknor warship. Everything appeared normal. Crew at their stations. Systems functioning. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. When they came back on, there was a human standing in the middle of the bridge, just standing there. hands clasped behind his back, wearing what appeared to be a simple black uniform with no insignia or rank markers. "Hello," the human said pleasantly. "We need to have a conversation about your current course of action." The Draknor bridge crew reacted exactly as you would expect. Weapons were drawn. Alarms shrieked. Security protocols activated. The human did not move. "You are trespassing on our vessel," the ship commander snarled. "How did you even get here?" "That is not really the important question right now," the human replied. His tone was conversational, almost friendly. "The important question is whether you folks would like to turn around and go home, or whether we need to do this the difficult way. You are one being on a ship with 400 trained warriors. You will be torn apart." The human tilted his head slightly. "Will I though?" That was when things got weird. The lights went out again. For exactly 2 seconds. When they came back on, every weapon on the bridge had been disassembled, not destroyed. Disassembled. Components neatly arranged on the floor in perfect geometric patterns. "How?" the commander breathed. "Look, I get it," the human continued. "You are a proud warrior culture. You have a reputation to maintain. But here is the thing about humans. We have been fighting each other for our entire history. We have had more wars than most species have had meals. We have perfected every possible way of hurting, defeating, and killing other beings that anyone has ever thought of, plus several thousand nobody else was crazy enough to attempt." He paused, letting that sink in. "We avoid fighting other species not because we are weak, but because we are very, very good at it. So good that we genuinely find it boring to fight anyone but ourselves. You understand? When we fight each other it is challenging, it is interesting. But fighting you folks? That is just sad." The Draknor commander lunged. The human sidestepped without appearing to move quickly. And suddenly the commander was on the floor, his own tail somehow wrapped around his neck. "See what I mean? Boring." The recording continued for another 3 minutes, but the council had seen enough. Vexruin gestured for me to stop playback. "What happened to the ships?" she asked quietly. According to the survivor, the humans offered them a choice: surrender and be escorted to a designated zone, or resist and face consequences. Most surrendered. Those who did not, well, their ships are still missing, and the humans just let the others go? After disabling all weapon systems and installing tracking devices, yes. Counselor Threxmorn was reviewing his own datapad, his scales shifting to a disturbed purple hue. He'd been going through the classified files on human history. "Did you know they have a documented strategy called ghost warfare that dates back thousands of their years?" "Did," I replied. "They used to call it other things: ninja tactics, special operations, asymmetric warfare. The terminology changes, but the core concept remains the same. Achieve your objectives without your enemy ever seeing you coming. But these are warships, in space. There is nowhere to hide." I pulled up another file, this one showing human civilians, normal-looking beings. Honestly. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Not particularly impressive physically. "This," I said, "is a human child, age 7 in their years. This child can list 17 different ways to hide in an empty room." Pause for effect. "This is a human recreational activity called hide and seek. They teach stealth tactics to their children as a game." The council stared at the image. "Their military training," I continued, "involves something called survival, evasion, resistance, and escape protocols. They teach their soldiers how to infiltrate, sabotage, and escape from any environment imaginable. They practice these skills constantly, and here is the truly disturbing part. Those are just their regular soldiers." "What do you mean?" Vexruin asked, though her tone suggested she did not really want to know. "Humans have entire military units that specialize in what they call unconventional warfare. Groups with names like SEALs, Rangers, Spetsnaz, SAS. These beings train for years to do nothing but conduct operations that conventional forces cannot handle. And those are just the ones we know about." I let that hang in the air for a moment. The Draknor fleet was not defeated by the human military. They were defeated by something worse: human creativity applied to the problem of making 600 warships full of warriors simply stop being a threat. And the humans did it without killing anyone, which somehow makes it more terrifying. "Why?" someone asked. "Because it means they chose not to kill, which means they absolutely could have if they wanted to." The Draknor were not defeated. They were handled. Like unruly children being put in timeout. The council chamber fell silent again. "What do they want?" Vexruin finally asked. "Nothing." That is the other disturbing part. They sent a diplomatic message saying they understood the Draknor were simply following their cultural norms, that no permanent harm was done, and that they hoped this incident would not affect future relations. That is it? That is it. No demands, no threats, no gloating, just a polite suggestion that maybe we should all think carefully before assuming humans are an easy target. Counselor Threxmorn was making a strange sound. I realized after a moment he was laughing. Not the joyful kind, the slightly hysterical kind. What is funny? Vexrune demanded. I just realized something, he said. Humans have been in the Galactic Concordance for 20 cycles now. In that entire time, how many conflicts have they been involved in? None. I replied. Exactly. None. We all assumed it was because they were peaceful, or weak, or simply not interested in galactic politics. But what if the real reason is that everyone who tried to start something with them just quietly stopped? Oh no. Pull up the incident reports, Vexrune ordered. All of them. Every unexplained disappearance. Every mysteriously resolved conflict. Every situation where aggressive species suddenly became cooperative. The data flooded the displays. 18 separate incidents over the last 2 decades. Pirates who vanished after raiding human trade routes. Slavers who released their captives and turned themselves in after approaching human colonies. 3 different military forces who canceled planned attacks and requested diplomatic negotiations instead. We had attributed it all to coincidence, random chance, the unpredictability of space. But looking at it now with this new context, a different pattern emerged. They have been doing this the entire time, Vexrune whispered. Every threat that got close to human space just stopped. We thought humanity was lucky. We thought they were protected by geography or politics or random chance. But it was not luck. It was never luck. They have been protecting themselves all along, I agreed. We just never noticed because nobody ever realized they had been targeted. The threats simply evaporated before they became visible. Like ghosts, Threxmorn added. They fight like ghosts. You never see them, never hear them, never even know they are there until it is far too late. Vexrune stood, her eye stalks swiveling to focus on each council member in turn. New standing order. Humanity is to be reclassified from Category 4 civilization to Category 1, with special diplomatic status. No military actions, no aggressive posturing, no demands of any kind. If we have a dispute with Earth, we resolve it through negotiation. Period. You are putting them in the same category as the ancient powers? Someone protested. That seems excessive. No, Vexrune said firmly. It seems prudent. The ancient powers are dangerous because they possess technology we cannot counter. Humans are dangerous because they possess something worse. Thousands of years of experience making warfare into an art form so refined that we cannot even detect when we are losing. She paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. The Draknor learned this lesson the embarrassing way. We are going to learn it the smart way, by not needing to learn it at all. The council murmured agreement. One more thing, I added. There is a human saying I came across in my research. I think it is relevant here. What is it? Vexrune asked. I pulled up the quote and read it aloud. Speak softly, and carry a big stick. What does that mean? It means that true strength does not need to be displayed loudly. The humans are polite, friendly, and diplomatic not because they are weak, but because they are so overwhelmingly capable that they can afford to be nice. They avoid war not because they fear it, but because they have become so proficient at it that it bores them. I closed my datapad. The Draknor tried to make humanity submit through force. Instead, they taught us all a valuable lesson. The only thing more dangerous than an enemy who wants to fight is an enemy who does not, because they have nothing left to prove. The council session ended shortly after that. Recommendations were filed. Protocols were updated. Diplomatic channels were open. And somewhere out in the void, 600 Draknor warships were limping home, their crews traumatized and their weapons disabled, courtesy of an enemy they never even saw coming. Humans, I decided, were the most terrifying species in the galaxy, not because they were violent, but because they had become so good at violence that they had evolved past it, turning warfare into a subtle art that most species could not even recognize as combat. And that, more than any weapon or fleet, was why nobody in their right mind would ever try to conquer Earth, because the humans would not fight back in any way you expected or could prepare for. They would simply make you stop, efficiently and quietly, and you would never quite understand how it happened. Just thinking about it made my scales itch. The diplomatic summit was scheduled for exactly 30 cycles after what the Draknor were now calling the incident that we do not discuss in polite company. I had been assigned as the Concordance's primary liaison to the human delegation, which was either a promotion or a punishment. Honestly, after 3 months of studying their species, I still could not tell the difference. The venue was Station Harmony 7, a neutral facility floating in unclaimed space. 17 species sent representatives. Everyone wanted to understand what had actually happened. More importantly, everyone wanted to make absolutely certain it would never happen to them. The human delegation arrived exactly on schedule, which somehow felt ominous. Punctuality in galactic politics usually meant either excessive military discipline or a complete disregard for social norms. With humans, I was beginning to suspect it meant both. Their ambassador was a woman named Victoria Okonkwo, and she looked, frankly, harmless. Average height for a human, dark skin, gray-streaked hair pulled back in a practical style, warm smile, the kind of being you would trust to babysit your offspring, which, given what I now knew about humans, made her absolutely terrifying. Assessor Krell Vorath, she said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture. I have heard so much about you. Your analysis reports are incredibly thorough. I clasped her hand carefully, remembering the 17 different ways humans could weaponize this simple gesture that I had cataloged last week. She simply shook it gently and released. Ambassador Okonkwo, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Of course, though I have to admit I am a bit confused about why everyone seems so nervous. Her smile widened slightly. We are all friends here, right? The Draknor representative, a scarred veteran named Kronvar, made a sound halfway between a growl and a whimper. He had been on one of the ships. Poor bastard. The conference room was designed for maximum transparency. Clear walls, open space, multiple exits. Every species had insisted on being able to see everything at all times. Nobody wanted any surprises. Ambassador Okonkwo settled into her seat with easy grace, her small delegation arranging themselves behind her. 2 aides, 1 security officer. The security officer, I noted, looked even more harmless than the ambassador. He was reading a datapad and occasionally smiling at whatever was on it. That smile bothered me more than any weapon display would have. High Chancellor Vex Rune called the meeting to order. We are here to discuss the recent incident between the Draknor Hegemony and Earth, and to establish protocols to prevent similar misunderstandings in the future. Misunderstandings? Crown Byers snarled. Your people invaded our ships. You violated every law of warfare. You humiliated our entire fleet. Ambassador Okonkwo's expression shifted to something resembling genuine confusion. I am sorry, but I think there has been a miscommunication. We did not invade your ships. I was there. I saw your warriors appear from nowhere. I watched them dismantle our weapons with their bare hands. Oh, that. She nodded slowly. Yes. Well, technically those were not warriors, they were negotiators. The silence that followed could have suffocated a star. Negotiators, Kronvar repeated flatly. Yes. Members of our diplomatic crisis response teams. They specialize in de-escalating situations before they become violent. Very peaceful people, actually. Most of them are former teachers, social workers, that sort of thing. I checked my datapad frantically. She was not lying. The humans who had boarded the Draknor ships were officially classified as diplomatic personnel. Their military records showed specializations in conflict resolution, cultural mediation, and what humans called hostage negotiation. They disarmed our entire fleet. Well, yes, but only because you were being quite aggressive and we needed to create a safe environment for dialogue. Surely you can understand that. We could not very well have a productive conversation while you were pointing weapons at us. The sheer audacity of framing a military intervention as a safety measure for better communication left several council members gasping. Councillor Threxmorn leaned forward. Ambassador, how exactly did your negotiators board the ships? Our analysis suggests they would have needed to cross several kilometers of hard vacuum without vessels or propulsion systems. Oh, we used vessels. Just very small ones. Personal insertion pods, we call them. They are designed to be difficult to detect on standard sensors. Stealth technology, Vexrune said carefully. Goodness, no, nothing so dramatic. They just use passive systems and non-reflective materials. Basic physics, really. We developed them for search and rescue operations in debris fields. Turns out they are also quite useful for diplomatic interventions. She said it so casually, as if repurposing rescue equipment for military infiltration was the most natural thing in the universe. And your people just happened to have these pods ready when the Draknor fleet arrived? Ambassador Okonkwo's smile never wavered. We maintain rapid response teams for various scenarios. When your battle fleet broadcast its intentions across all channels 3 days before arriving, we had time to prepare an appropriate diplomatic response. You call disabling 600 warships a diplomatic response? We call preventing a battle that would have resulted in millions of casualties a diplomatic response. The alternative would have been actual warfare. And trust me, nobody wanted that. There was something in the way she said it. A subtle shift in tone, a slight hardening around the eyes. For just a moment the friendly ambassador facade slipped, and I saw something else underneath, something cold, something calculating, something that had done the math on exactly how much damage humanity could inflict, and decided that mercy was the more interesting option. Then the moment passed and she was smiling again. But let us not dwell on unpleasantness. We are here to build bridges, not burn them. The Draknor have a fascinating culture and we would love to establish better relations. Perhaps we could discuss trade agreements, cultural exchanges. I understand your people have incredible metallurgical techniques that our engineers would love to learn about. Kranvar looked like he was trying to swallow a meteor. You want to trade with us? After what you did, why not? The incident is over. Nobody died. Your crews are safely home. We see no reason to hold grudges over a simple miscommunication. Simple miscommunication? You thought we were weak and attempted to subjugate us through military force. We demonstrated that we were not weak and that subjugation would not be possible. Now we all have better information. That is just good communication. Really. I was starting to understand why humans had been so successful. They had weaponized reasonableness. Every word out of Ambassador Okonkwo's mouth was perfectly logical, completely polite, and absolutely maddening. What? Vexrune said slowly, would have happened if the Draknor had refused your negotiators' request to stand down. Then we would have escalated to the next level of diplomatic intervention, which is, we would have asked more firmly. The ambassador's aide, a young man named Marcus Webb, pulled up a holographic display. If I may, Chancellor, I have a presentation prepared on human conflict resolution methodologies. I think it might help clear up some confusion. Vexrune gestured for him to proceed. The display showed a pyramid diagram with multiple levels. At the bottom, polite request. At the top, existential reallocation. Human diplomatic doctrine operates on a graduated response scale. Marcus explained, his tone cheerful and educational. We always start with the minimum necessary intervention. If that proves insufficient, we escalate gradually until the situation resolves. Define existential reallocation, Threxmorn demanded. We would really prefer not to. Ambassador Okonkwo interjected smoothly. It has never been necessary, and we intend to keep it that way. Suffice to say, levels 1 through 7 have proven adequate for every situation we have encountered so far. The Draknor incident was level 1, level 2 actually. Level 1 would have been a strongly worded message. 7 species representatives started coughing simultaneously. You have 7 more levels beyond what you did to the Draknor fleet. Vexrune's eye stalks had gone completely rigid. 9. Technically though, 8 and 9 are really just variations on the same theme. But again, we have never needed them. Humans are fundamentally peaceful. We genuinely prefer to solve problems through dialogue and mutual understanding. Then why develop 9 levels of escalating force? Ambassador Okonkwo's expression became thoughtful. Have you ever heard the human saying, hope for the best, plan for the worst? No, we are optimists by nature, Chancellor. We truly believe that most conflicts can be resolved peacefully. But we are also pragmatists. We recognize that sometimes beings make poor decisions, and when they do, it is better to have options prepared in advance. This way we can respond proportionally rather than overreacting. That was you not overreacting? Kranvar was incredulous. Absolutely. An overreaction would have been deploying our actual military forces. We specifically avoided that because we wanted to keep things friendly. The human security officer, still reading his datapad, made a small sound of amusement. Everyone turned to look at him. Sorry, he said, not looking up. Funny article about historical peace treaties. Did you folks know that humans have written over 43,000 formal treaties in recorded history? We are really quite good at negotiation when given the opportunity. How many of those treaties have been broken? I asked, morbid curiosity getting the better of me. Most of them. Honestly. Which is why we also got really good at enforcement mechanisms. Turns out a treaty is only as good as your ability to ensure compliance, hence the graduated response scale. He said it so matter-of-factly, as if constructing 9 levels of increasingly aggressive diplomatic interventions was just basic common sense. Ambassador Okonkwo redirected the conversation smoothly. The point is, we want to be good neighbors. We want to contribute to the concordance. We want to share our culture, learn from yours, and build a better future together. All we ask is that people respect our sovereignty and give us the same courtesy they would extend to any other member species. And if they do not? Vexrune asked. Then we ask them politely to reconsider. And if that does not work, we ask less politely. And we keep adjusting our approach until we find a communication method that resonates. The way she phrased it made forced disarmament sound like a customer service interaction. I have a question, I said, surprising myself. Why do humans avoid war? You clearly have the capability. Your history shows consistent military innovation. You have refined warfare to an art form. So why the emphasis on peace? Ambassador Okonkwo met my eyes, and for a moment I saw genuine emotion there. Sadness, maybe. Or regret, because we know exactly what war costs. Assessor, we have fought thousands of them. Millions have died in conflicts over resources, ideology, territory, religion, and sometimes just because we forgot why we were fighting in the first place. We have built weapons that could sterilize worlds. We have developed tactics so brutal that we banned ourselves from using them. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We got very good at killing each other. So good that we almost destroyed ourselves several times. And eventually we learned something important. Being good at war does not make you strong. It makes you dangerous. True strength is being capable of terrible violence but choosing not to inflict it. True power is having every option available and selecting the most peaceful one. The conference room was utterly silent. So yes, we avoid war. Not because we fear it, but because we understand it better than anyone else in this room. We know exactly how ugly it gets, how quickly it escalates, and how difficult it is to stop once it starts. That knowledge, that experience, that is why we prefer diplomacy. She smiled again, but it was different now. Tired, ancient. We have seen the alternative. We have been the alternative. And we decided we would rather be something else. Kronvar spoke quietly, his aggression finally spent. What you did to my people, that was mercy. Yes, I do not understand. I know, but someday you might. And when you do, you will be grateful we showed restraint. The summit continued for 3 more hours. Trade agreements were discussed. Cultural exchange programs were proposed. Borders were clarified, and through it all, Ambassador Okonkwo maintained her perfect diplomatic composure, never once acknowledging the fundamental power dynamic that now governed every interaction. Humanity had demonstrated capability without declaring dominance. They had shown strength while extending friendship. They had won without fighting, and somehow that made every species in the room more inclined to cooperate, not less. As the delegates filed out, I approached the ambassador one final time. A personal question, if I may. Of course. Assessor, do humans actually have 9 levels of escalation? Or was that partially bluff? She looked at me for a long moment, then leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Honestly, we have not decided yet. The thing about human military planning is that we keep coming up with new ideas. Every year someone invents a new technique, a new strategy, a new approach that nobody has considered before. So the real answer is, we have at least 9 levels, but we are probably up to 12 or 15 by now, and we just have not updated the official documentation. She straightened, smile returning to full brightness. But between you and me, we are really hoping we never have to find out exactly how many levels we have. Peace is so much more interesting than war, do not you think? As I watched her leave, surrounded by her small delegation of former teachers and social workers who could infiltrate warships in deep space, I finally understood the truth about humanity. They did not avoid war because they were peaceful. They avoided war because they had become so terrifyingly proficient at it that they had evolved beyond it entirely, turning conflict into a precise science where overwhelming force was the least interesting option available. And that, I realized, was the most human thing of all. Taking something they were incredibly good at and deciding it was too easy, too boring, too predictable to bother with anymore. They had not conquered warfare. They had gotten bored with it, which meant the only challenge left that interested them was finding ways to not fight while still achieving every strategic objective. I filed my report that evening. My recommendation was simple: treat humanity as the single most dangerous species in known space, and show them the respect due to beings who have weaponized restraint itself. The Concordants approved my assessment unanimously. And somewhere on Earth, in offices and training facilities I would never see, humans continued refining their diplomatic intervention techniques, probably while laughing at how seriously everyone else took their peaceful methodologies, because that was the final joke, the one I only understood later. Humans were peaceful. Genuinely, sincerely peaceful. They had just redefined peace to mean achieving your objectives without anyone realizing they lost. And honestly, I could not decide if that was brilliant or absolutely insane. Probably both. Definitely human.